Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. In this episode, I'll be doing a quick review on Living Colour's third album called Stain. And it came out in 1993. I remember buying it on cassette, I think, at the time, but somewhere along the line, I lost the cassette. But my history goes back to, when Cult of the Personality came out in 1988. It just kind of blew the doors off everything that was out there. It was so different and so big and bombastic and just in your face, and it was in some ways it was like perfect for the MTV generation that year, and it was played so much. It won won a Grammy, won some MTV awards. It was everywhere. It in some ways it changed. I wouldn't say changed the face of music, but it was probably the biggest underground hit that year. And then they just had a couple other really good songs with Landlord and of course Glamour Boys. It's just some really good songs. And I remember my sister at the time. She was actually the first one that showed me Cult of Personality. She had the 12 inch, and for my oldest sister to have like a hard rock album was different. And but that's kind of where Living Color came from before they got popular. As the Cult of Personality, as that song kind of got bigger, it really got wind in probably first in the alternative airwaves and some of the alternative radio stations. I remember K Rock played it a lot in Los Angeles, and then of course went bigger and then got on MTV and then just was a mega hit, and you heard it everywhere. And just I remember that performance on MTV was really good as well when they played that track. And it was for my sister to have a hard rock record was very different. And I mean, she was really good about showing me, like, when I grew up, like earlier than that, and when I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. She showed me everything from Split Ends to Haircut 100 to Madness to Smiths to U2 to all kinds of really great music. In fact, she's the one who bought me my first cassette for my birthday when I was 9 years old. It was Depeche Mode, Catching Up with Depeche Mode, 1985. And so my older sister was really important for my early knowledge and getting to music. And it was cool to have people around you that you could kind of absorb their tastes. And so I had three older siblings, so I was able to kind of take from each of them what I liked. It was almost like there was three collections around me, and then my parents had some music too. So I just went around the house and was learning about music in my house. It was great. And they all had like different styles. My brother was a little darker. My older sister had a little bit more maybe poppy new wave synth pop, and then my other sister had some freestyle and other kind of new wave and stuff like that. And of course, my parents had like everything from disco to uh, all kinds of stuff. Dionne Warwick, to Donna Summer, to Bee Gees, to Beatles, to Buffalo Springfield, to the Turtles. Just all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you saw my 45 collection, I have about a couple hundred 45s, and they're all from my parents' collection, and there's all kinds of stuff in there, mostly from like 1966 maybe to about 1980. Everything from you name it. I mean, I got the Doors in there, all kinds of stuff, and so it was great to kind of grow up around that. And for my older sister to have a hard rock album, it definitely kind of was like, whoa, she's not at the time, because it was just a really, and that was kind of my point about it being played on alternative stations. It was really just an alternative song. It wasn't like a funk metal track or they were a hard rock band. It was kind of, they were part of the alternative scene in those days. Like before 1990, it was really just alternative rock and maybe alternative music. Like alternative music kind of was everything, like new wave, everything from Spandau Ballet to Def Leppard to almost. I mean, before Def Leppard got popular, to REM to Bash Mode, all that stuff was kind of in the alternative range. It was really just pop, maybe rock, and then alternative. At the time, everything was kind of like lumped into alternative, like from like '82 to maybe like maybe '88. And then they started going into subgenres around 1990 because there was so many of them, and people got a little bit more exact about their style. And so yeah, I wanted to review Stain. I had it again. I had it when it came out, and I lost it along the ways. But just kind of popped in my head like an album I wanted to review. I've kind of wanted to review Living Color's albums. I know their first three albums. I don't necessarily know the last three albums when they changed lineup in, I think it was 1998 or sorry, 2003, and then there was two other albums. In the later 2000s. I think the last one was maybe 2017 or something like that. I don't know the last three albums, and so my really knowledge of them really stopped after Stained came out in 1993. And going back to this, actually, just talking quickly about the band, Corey Glover, amazing singer, just powerful and soulful too. And there was one time back in like 2012, I was at work and I was working in downtown DC, and I got off work early, like 6 or 7, and I just kind of looked at my phone. I was like, is there any concerts to go to? I just didn't want to go home. And sure enough, I saw Living Color was playing at a local concert venue, a smaller venue, and I just rolled over there by myself, went in, and just had a fantastic time. It was great to see a band like that I'd never seen before that I've liked for a long time. And they were surprisingly, Corey Glover was surprisingly almost so soulful and gospel, almost to the point where he was gospel. And those who maybe have seen Living Color in the past, maybe 20 years or so, or 30 years, that was the only time I've seen him, so I don't fully know. But he has such a soulful voice and it's almost a spiritual, like gospel. And so he was sort of going to like some some vocal performances with no music, just these acapellas and just flow and do these kind of like gospel riffs. It was just like wow, it was just such a strong voice, and I knew that from the album, but in person it was even more so. And of course, you got Vernon Reid on guitar, his amazing guitar player, and he's all over the place with his talent and the style he has. Like, and Stain is kind of a good example of that. My favorite three tracks on the album are first one is Nothingness. The I think it was the second single, and I remember seeing the video on it. It was kind of more laid back. It almost sounds like a Prince song a little bit, but man, I wish they did more tracks like this. This is such a phenomenal song. I love it. It's so smooth and atmospheric, and had some keyboards, and I always wish there was more of that. And it's one of my favorite songs Living Color ever did of their first three albums. But it's just I just think it's a really strong song, and for the most part it stays in the sweet spot. I don't think it's really will blow away anybody, but I just love it because it's atmospheric and smooth. I love his voice. It definitely reminds me of like the first time I heard When Doves Cry when that came out in like '83. Like it kind of has that kind of like funk and soul and rock in there, and just a really great balance. I give that track 8.25 stars. And then my second favorite is Never Satisfied, track number 7. This is a signature Living Color. It should have been a single. It's so good. It's one of my favorite songs by them as well, right back to back. Those two. It's such a good song. It's a shame it wasn't a single. If it would have been, there was a little bit of when their second album came out, Times Up. There was a big anticipation for it, and I don't know if it really met the expectation a lot. So they kind of lost a lot of, I guess, kind of a momentum with their career in that year because Cult of Personality was so big and everybody was just waiting for a second album. And Times Up, I don't know if it really delivered. And I think if this, if some of the songs on this album would have been the second album, maybe that would have propelled something. But it would have had to take Never Satisfied to be a single because that should have been a single. If that would have been like the first single on the second album, I think that would have done a lot more damage in the pop and maybe in the charts than maybe their second album is. But that's just that's impossible to say that. But I just feel like Never Satisfied is just such an underrated song, and for it not to be a single, it's just kind of. But anyways, really good song. I love that song. I give it 8 out of 10 stars. And then my third favorite is the last track, Wall, which ends the album on a really strong note. It has a lot of edge, but it's well produced. The surroundings really nice, atmosphere. It's got a better edge to the band, and again, really strong ending to the album. I give that one 7.75. And then just to round out, my fourth and my fifth favorite are "Leave It Alone," which was the single of the album, the first single. amazing funk in the track, the guitar, the cool solo. Certainly the vocal is really strong. Good changes in the track too as well. Adding some nice keyboards, nice and tight. And then my fifth favorite track is Bye. Bye was the fourth single on here. Didn't really get released wide, but really clever track and really cool lyrics. Kind of talks about somebody who's bisexual and they like guys and like girls and they get the opportunity from both. It's a cool track though. It's very in some ways it's kind of ahead of the time. It's sung a little bit like Glamour Boys, so he kind of has like some tongue in cheek with it, but really catchy track. Really catchy track. So yeah, all five of those: Nothingness, Never Satisfied, Wall, Leave It Alone, and Bye are all over a 7 star. So five tracks out of the 12. There's one short track that I'm not counting called Hemp, which is like a minute and a half. Um, Track number 10, WTFF, is really just an instrumental, but I still counted that track into the score. But out of the 12 tracks, five are over a 7. And then the lowest track, my least favorite, is Mind Your Own Business. I give it a 5 stars. I still think it's pretty good, but it's on the very low side. A bit too slow for me, a little heavy. A little too heavy for me. It's kind of got that, and as you can see, I don't have long hair to do any. So it's a little not really my style. But everything on the more upbeat is a little bit more my style, and I don't mind the funk and stuff like that. I mean, it's all good, but there's certainly, it is. It's not because they're African American, but they do have kind of like a sound that's kind of a little bit harder than like Fishbone or 24 Spy. So me growing up with like Fishbone, like it seemed really just like an extension of Fishbone, because Fishbone was extremely funky and just not as well polished, because it was the mid 80s, early 80s to mid late 80s, and just not as polished as something like this. Like this was supposed to be probably a big hit. Like I mean, hard rock and rock music was so big in like 1992, 93 with all the grunge and everything from Soundgarden to Pearl Jam. Like this should have done really well, and for the most part, it got some play. I mean, the album went to number 26 on the top 40, top 100, albums, but didn't go gold and didn't produce any top 40 single, even any top 100 singles. So none of the singles really charted well, but they played those videos on. I remember Nothingness and Leave It Alone on the playing on MTV, the videos and stuff. So they got some airplay, but not as much as they should for this time. And I don't know exactly what that is. I'm not sure if that was the labels issue or because they had the videos for it, they have the look. I don't know why they weren't pushed a lot in 1993. Maybe the funk and the heavier metal didn't really catch on as much as like the harder rock, or maybe the more. But if you think about a lot of the bands that did really well in like 91 to 93, that were more on the hard rock, like if it was somebody like Helmet, they kind of had a hard rock and it was kind of an underground success, but it kind of crossed over a little bit. But it seems like all those bands like Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins, Soundgarden, like they had to have one like ballad track to sort of like, that Jeremy track or Today by Smashing Pumpkins, or Stone Temple Pilots like Plush or something like that. One kind of track that really kind of like went huge top 40, and that would sort of push the album into platinum, double platinum, triple platinum. So if they had one or two of those within a couple year period, they were just a huge band, and that was kind of the strategy. Even Smashing Pumpkins had to do that, and they had some heavier tracks in there. But there was a lot of bands in that time, and it's strange that Nothingness kind of went over people's head. And even though I really like it, and for some reason it just didn't really catch on in the charts, and that's too bad, because it didn't really, if that was a big track, then obviously Never Satisfied or Bye would have been another big track, and they would have had a little bit more momentum. And who knows, they might have stayed together and done another album, because they kind of rearranged had some issues in 93, 95, kind of sort of split up, didn't make another album for a decade. If Stain would have been a little bit bigger, they probably would have stayed together and done another album. But that can happen. But it's hard to know the reasons why they kind of disappeared. But it was probably because of the chart success, and just maybe some tensions within certain members. You never know. But overall, it's a really good album. My score adds up to a 80.5 stars divided by 12 tracks. Again, I don't count the 1 minute and 35 second track called Hemp. Divided by 12 tracks, so that's a 67, and I think I'm pretty okay with that. I feel like it's on the high side of a good album, not quite the very good. I think the couple things that kind of stop it getting very good. There's too many tracks. 13 tracks is a little bit too much. Even if quite a few of them are 3 minutes, there's a minute one in there. So there's 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Just a little bit too many tracks. And there's there's really no in particular track that's really like tanking the album from getting into the higher scores. But it's just there's good 4 to 5 to 6 of them that are kind of in the fives and sixes and don't really do too much for me. But it's kind of a half album is good. Half album is really good. Half the album is pretty good. So it's just kind of a mix of fives and six and a few seven eights. It's pretty consistent in there, but still a good album overall for sure. And 67 out of 100. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Stain by Living Colour, the third album from 1993. I'm interested to know what your score is and what your thoughts are on this album. A big Living Colour fan. And have you ever seen them in concert? Like they're definitely somebody I would see again if I got the chance. They're really entertaining, and they put on a show. They're no phone it in type of band. Like they give you a really good performance. And I was pretty much, not would say blown away, but I got a show when I saw them, and they don't disappoint live. They bring it. So and the songs are all over the place too. Like there's obviously you got some big heavy hitters, some really strong tracks, a lot of funk in there, and ballads and soulful stuff, and there's all kinds of stuff in a Living Color concert. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Stained. On Stained. I don't know why I keep saying Stained. Stained by Living Color.
Electric